story about a far-off land a long, long time ago. A lovely little fairy tale about a land called Amereeka. Not to be confused with California, which was run by an actor. That's another story. This is Amereeka. And it's about an emperor. An emperor who was known for his wisdom, his intelligence, his brilliance throughout the land. And everyone loved and adored him because if you didn't, you were vilified. And the emperor was known for always looking his best. In fact, there was a motto going around that if the emperor did not look good, the country did not look good, and therefore the emperor had to look his best. Well, two tailors heard about this, and they came to the emperor, and they said, "Your Majesty, we have this fine material, such as you have never known in your life. It is very rare, it is very special, it is magical, it is called flowery rhetoric. And the unique property about this clothing is that only the wisest and smartest people can see the flowery rhetoric." So they opened up the box and they pulled out what appeared to be a beautiful, beautiful piece of cloth. And the emperor didn't see anything. But he didn't want to sound stupid in front of his advisors, for off to his left he had the Democrats led by Sir Barney Francis. And on the right he had the Republicans, who were led by pretty much nobody. So he said, "Oh my, this is, well, you know, this is not the Special Olympics." At which point, his number one aide, Sir William Teleprompter, ran up to him and held up a piece of paper. Now, nobody knew where these pieces of paper came from, but for some reason they always seem to have exactly the right thing to say, except for the one time when Sir William Teleprompter gave him somebody else's speech, and the emperor read the entire thing through and actually thanked himself at the end. But I digress. We will divert. So Sir William Teleprompter held up this piece of paper, and the emperor said, "Ah, yes, well, indeed it is true that as finely arrayed as I can be, this shall reflect upon the majesty and glory of the country, and therefore we must be adorned with this beautiful flowery rhetoric. Is it not lovely, my cabinet members?" And to the left he turned to Sir Barney Francis, and all the Democrats turned around and they said, "Well, if the emperor sees this flowery rhetoric, surely it must be good." So they all said, "Yes, yes, we must have that at any cost." Then he turned and said, "What say you?" to his Republican advisors. And the Republican advisors didn't see anything. Now, the principles of the Republicans meant that they had to make a stand, but they didn't want to look bad in front of the Democrats and in front of the emperor. They didn't want the press to pillory them, as they would do anyway. So they said, yes, it is a fine flowery rhetoric indeed. But what will it cost? We want to have tax cuts. And so the emperor turned to the two tailors. I believe their names were Sir Dodd and Sir Geithner, who were pulling things out of thin air. And I said, "Well, how much will this flowery rhetoric cost?" And Sir Dodd and Sir Geithner said, "Well, Your Emperor, it's not cheap. This is the most expensive fabric. This is the most unique fabric. It can only be woven from magical silkworms. And we alone are the only ones that are skilled in the technique of creating this flowery rhetoric and to be able to cut it and sew it and to the finest garment, such as would befit Your Majesty." Well, that's all they needed to hear. But at this point, the emperor actually did see the flowery rhetoric. All of the Democrats actually did see the flowery rhetoric. And they all started screaming, "We must have this! We must have this no matter what the cost. We'll tax everybody. We'll tax everything. We must have this flowery rhetoric regardless, no matter what. It's for the people. It's for the children." And so they turned to the Republicans. The Republicans, having already compromised their principles, were now in a pickle. Because they couldn't say they didn't see the flowery rhetoric, but they decided to stand their ground. The entire Republican campaign stood its ground, and they said, "No, we are not going to, we just can't afford it. Yes, it's beautiful. We cannot afford it. It will bankrupt the country." Unfortunately, there were 3 Republicans that did see the flowery rhetoric, and they voted for it, and the measure passed. So, the two tailors went to work. Every time somebody came to visit them, they were busy sewing or cutting or stitching together or making patterns, all in what appeared to be thin air. But the servants said nothing because they knew that there was flowery rhetoric there. There must be. The emperor had said so. The Democrats had said so. The Republicans had said so. So finally there came a day when the emperor decided to show off his brand new clothes, and he marched through the street surrounded by all of his advisors. But then he came to one little boy, and one little boy named Joe tugged on his mommy's sleeve and said, "But Mommy, the emperor has no clothes." And his father, John McCain, said, "Shh, Sean, be quiet. We don't want people to not like us. We don't want them to think you're stupid. Shut up." And the little boy yelled even all the louder, "But the emperor has no clothes!" And at this, the emperor did hear the little boy. And the crowd around heard the little boy. And the crowd that was farther down the street, up and down the street, said, "What happened? What happened? What happened?" And they told him, the little boy said, "The emperor has no clothes." And everybody started laughing. And they started pointing at the poor little boy. And they laughed, and they laughed, and they laughed, and then all of a sudden the laughter stopped. And the emperor looked down at himself, and everyone looked at the emperor, and they realized the little boy was right. And so the people rose up